Are OG retro shoes quietly rising back into the NBA? You bet. From Kevin Durant rocking the Nike KD4 Retro to Jalen Brunson choosing the Nike Kobe 5 Proto during the playoffs. We even had Reggie Miller rocking the Air Jordan 13 KILLA 31 to broadcast during Game 6 of the 2025 NBA Finals. For some reason, OG retros are sliding back onto NBA floors, while modern space foam sit in the tunnel for the photo. Why? Identity and nostalgia. But there's more to it than that. I mean, we have some of the biggest superstars dusting off 20-year-old retros and trusting them for their playoff games. So, what are these reasons? And what do they mean for the sneaker culture in the NBA? Let's take it all back to the beginning. Back in the day, hoop shoes were very moderate. They weren't fashion statements. We just had Converse Chucks, Puma Clydes, and Pro Leathers. In the early 80s, the NBA enforced a uniformity rule to keep the game looking polished and team-oriented. So, players had to wear sneakers that were at least 51% white and matched their teammates' shoes. Then Jordan happened. After signing his record deal with Nike, the Air Jordan 1s were designed. And so on October 18, 1984, Michael Jordan laced them up against the New York Knicks. And he got slapped with a $5,000 fine from the NBA for violating the color rule. But MJ kept wearing them, racking up fines per game until Nike paid them all, totaling around $30,000 that season. But you see, Nike didn't just sell cushioning. They sold mythology. Air Jordan turned a piece of gear into a symbol. And at first, that symbol was rebellion. But soon, rebellion became fashionable. Then the Jordan 3 brought visible air and elephant print. So at that point, you weren't just lacing up a sneaker, you were putting on confidence. But here's the twist. Jordan didn't just change shoes. He changed who told the story. And that shift would spark an entire revolution in sneaker culture, one that still controls the league today. By the late 90s and early 2000s, the tech wars had refined the perfect formula. Now, design was starting to be about more than just function. Style was starting to creep in, especially with superstars like Kobe, LeBron, and Kevin Durant making the rounds then.
I think Nike understood that there was something so transcendent about each individual player, and as they dominated the league, it allowed Nike to just do so much in terms of the product lines they were putting out. The stories they were telling were going to tell themselves just because you wanted to have a piece of this dominance.
Then each pair started saying something. Memorial initials on the midsole, hometown colors under national lights. The billboard shifted. It wasn't commercials defining the shoe anymore. It was the athlete. And once players realized they could control the message, everything changed. But wait till you hear why today's stars are reaching back into that toolbox again. Not for nostalgia, but for trust. So what do we mean by trust? Well, you see, new doesn't automatically mean better on a basketball court. Predictable foam, honest flex, and trustworthy geometry beat buzzwords when possessions get tight. If your foot knows what's coming when you plant, you win steps, and steps win shots. And so some of the trusted brands for performance became the Kobe 4, 5, and 6, the Penny 2, the Jordan 11s, and more. For instance, trainers generally favor shoes that behave the same in the first quarter as in overtime. It's not about maximum cushioning numbers, it's about consistent response under stress. That's why the Protro concept exists. Old blueprints updated with modern traction compounds and lighter foams. But this story isn't about lab data, it's about trust. When the season tightens and the playoffs arrive, you see fewer experiments because players want and need consistency. But that's not all. Players also wanted to feel like their favorite players or bring back moments, and this is what partially motivates brands to always go after the superstars.
Between Nike, Reebok, and Adidas, all of these sneaker companies were after them. But at the end of the day, when Nike decides they want to do something, no one can do it better than them. It was strategic and it was on purpose. There was no lottery, but they were definitely going after lottery picks, and they got a lot of them.
And in case you think Paul George is exaggerating, here.
This is it?
Yeah, this is it, man. It's a couple of sneakers that thanks for coming. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh.
But as these players got creative with the designs and trust between player, brand, and fans was built, it was time to get more bold.
What we thought basketball pairs, what we thought performance sneakers were supposed to be, and they were loud.
At that point, sneakers weren't just about performance anymore. They started carrying personality. Players were using them to express who they were and even what they stood for. By the 2000s, basketball shoes had become a part of culture. Players started to realize that the shoes they wore could communicate something without them even saying a word. Players started wearing the Kobe 6 Grinch to remind themselves of moments they grew up watching. They remembered Kobe dropping 40 in them on Christmas Day. It became more than just a colorway. It was a memory, a feeling they wanted to bring back every time they stepped on the court. The same thing happened with the Jordan 11 Space Jam. So, when they finally made it to the league, they reached back to that moment. But these shoes weren't just personal reminders. They became powerful statements. Players began writing messages on their midsoles, initials on the laces, and social causes on the side panels. During the most intense times, these shoes said what couldn't be said in press conferences. And as social media grew, the tunnel walk turned into the runway. Suddenly, heritage silhouettes started showing up again. That mix of history and fashion created a loop. Even when role players wore OGs, fans noticed. Take PJ Tucker, who's basically established himself as the NBA's biggest sneakerhead.
Dog, he got shoes. It's crazy. My locker's here, his locker's right here. And then we have an empty locker in between us. And for the longest, that locker was always stacked with my shoes. Bro, they cleaned out all my shoes just to make room for all his shoes. Bro, he got shoes. And he don't even wear them. He just have them on deck just cause. He'll have a specific shoe that he want to wear, and he'll wear that one. But then he'll have like 10 other shoes just on standby.
But even then, people still kept it on the low until August 29th, 2018. That was when the NBA completely removed the color rules as part of a broader effort to boost player expression. And so, the players began expressing themselves. With more player empowerment came expression. Also, brands realized that visibility mattered more than strict model loyalty. As long as the logo was clear on screen, they didn't care if it was a 2025 release or a retro from 2009. Players' agents began pushing for that language in contracts, rotation freedom, access to PEs, and control over what they wore in the tunnel. That's where retro culture really exploded. You'd see a player rocking a Kobe 5 or Jordan 12 that looked identical to the old one, but the inside was completely re-engineered. It had lighter foam, updated plates, and custom orthotics. It looked classic, but it performed like a brand new model. This balance between heritage and performance gave players confidence. They could wear something that told their story and trusted it to hold up when the game was on the line. But instead of launching one shoe per season, brands decided to build rotation narratives. A player might have a road pair, a closer pair, and a playoff pair. Protro and retro drops were planned around key dates, All-Star Weekend, rivalry games, and playoff runs. If a flagship wasn't performing or getting screen time, brands shifted focus to a retro that would. But what did all these do? It made players curators of their own brand. They treated their rotations like playlists, choosing shoes for fit, story, and matchup. But what was the driving force of these OG retro shoes? Nostalgia. And with that, a new business logic was established. Make memory shoes better to boost sales instead of forcing players to rock new shoes. So, even as the game is becoming more modern, NBA players today are still paying homage to the OGs and the memories they bring. What we're seeing now isn't a trend, it's a shift in power. Players aren't just wearing what brands hand them anymore. They're choosing what feels right, what performs, and what represents who they are. The archive became the standard. Shoes that once defined eras are now defining a new one. When players reach back for a Kobe 6 or a Jordan 12, it's not just nostalgia, it's also trust. And for the brands, this moment says something deeper. It's a reminder that the culture always circles back to what's real. Players know when a shoe works, and fans can feel that authenticity from the stands or through a screen. A story doesn't come from marketing anymore, it comes from performance. But here's something you have to understand. While these retro models are making a comeback, there's a reason brands are doubling down on them. Chinese sneaker companies like Anta, Li Ning, and 361 are quietly taking away sales. So if you want to understand that side of the story, how Chinese sneaker brands are taking over the NBA and why, then watch this video next.